If a writer only plays a new game for 30 seconds before immediately bashing out a one-paragraph review to meet Amiga Format's July 1992 submission deadline, we shouldn't be surprised to discover that certain crucial details may be omitted. Take James Leach's scatterbrained micro-assessment of Chariots of Wrath, for example. You'd hope it wasn't the deciding factor in anyone's purchase of this £25 upon initial release in 1989 hodgepodge compilation. Compilation being the operative word. Here's what he had to say. This game looks like a vastly simplified Eye of the Beholder. You wander around the bleak castle of the vowelless Emperor of Squirks, chopping and smart bombing any baddies who you chance upon. The pseudo 360-degree layout means that you must continually check every compass point, lest you are jabbed by some hairy swine. If truth be known, it looks better than it plays. There's a portion of excitement attached, but it's not large. It's no substitute for the, albeit more expensive, real thing. Better to sell something expensive that you own and buy EOB instead. Oops, this is the budget section. I shouldn't say things like that. He awarded Chariots of Wrath 42%, which sounds reasonable. But did he even play it? Maybe he did, and the review is a joke. Who knows? If it's supposed to be funny, is it? Or is it actually dismissive of the audience who paid a fiver for one of the Amiga's more sober magazines? What we can be sure of is that very little in his description aligns with what the game has to offer. Critically, it's not a dungeon crawler at all, more of a single-screen, extremely basic iteration of Operation Wolf that happens to be set in a dungeon. No exploration is possible. Our perspective of the scene is routed throughout, and no compass is presented for navigational purposes. A club-wielding goblin, or scantily clad troll, appears from the left or right doorway. We shoot it with a laser gun of all weapons via our joystick control crosshair, and then another appears from one side or the other. If we're not quick enough, they somehow cause blood to leak from our unseen body, splattering it across the screen. What happens in between is a complete mystery, since zero animation is in evidence. Miraculously, we don't lose a life or the game. It simply transitions into the next of the 6 PD quality minigames. Yes, that was just the first and possibly the only one James bothered to play before switching off to chase dogs with puffy tails, or whatever.
You're puff!
What follows are cack-handed clones of various arcade classics. Breakout, Asteroids, a primitive gem-collecting platformer, and a vertically scrolling Xenon 2 ripoff, which looks fairly polished, whilst being immensely repetitive and dull to endure. Don't be fooled by the impressively imposing end-of-level bosses. They're merely conglomerates of senseless pixels following a fixed rotation path displaying no inherent animation to convey a modicum of sentience, only requiring a sturdy auto-fire button to defeat. Hang on a minute, that's only 5 games. No idea what the final one entails. I can't complete the dreary anthology due to a bug that irrevocably sabotages the platformer stage, abruptly halting our traversal of the map. Briefly, a platform that should appear underneath one of the diamond-shaped chariot power pods fails to materialise, causing the player to fall to their doom when attempting to grab it. Skip it entirely and the level can't be completed, despite beating the clock. Our only reward is headbutting an impassable solid stone castle wall. All the components are programmed with sufficient competence, although by 1989 we rightly expected more than mediocre vintage sub-games in exchange for £25. What's even more preposterous is the story tying these diluted time wasters together, a narrative afterthought that only features in the flimsy manual, I should add. While fighting for your king in far-off lands, you, Prince Agar of the Forgotten Kingdom, have been commanded to remain in the king's castle following accusations of excessive acts of barbarism in battle. Confined to your quarters, suddenly a bard tells you that the Baron, your arch-rival, has brutally kidnapped Princess Arthena, your future queen. Enraged by the terrible news, you have no option but to disobey your king and return to save your princess, and at the same time rid the world of the Baron forever. So once again, you wearily climb into your space chariot and commence the voyage home. The journey will be far from easy. On the way you must cross paths on which many travellers have perished, and few survived. Your only guidance comes from the bard, whose map will direct you, and whose warnings of what lies ahead you should heed. But you have to do it to save Arthena from the evil Baron. Were the publisher's impressions, hoping no one would notice that a chariot doesn't feature anywhere in a single one of the minigames? No indication of a Baron, Bard or Princess either, for that matter. I imagine the board meeting at which all this was debated ended 30 seconds before chucking out time at the local pub, with the masterminds behind Chariots of Wrath in agreement that any gullible punters will be having so much fun they won't care that they are essentially playing bonus cover disc material, conveniently loading it from a single disc without having to reboot. Even at £8, the price of the budget re-release, you'd be advised to instead invest in a few magazine back issues. That's me being chariotable. Someone has to, after all.